Ind AS 1, presentation of financial statements, introduction. Ind AS 1 is a basic standard which prescribes the overall requirements for the presentation of financial statements and guidelines for their structure, that is, components of financial statements, balance sheet, statement of profit and loss, including other comprehensive income, statement of cash flows, notes comprising significant accounting policies, etc. So, Ind AS 1 is the standard, as the name suggests. They prescribe what are the overall requirements for the presentation of financial statements. Basically, what financial statements you should be making. For example, as we saw the balance sheet, profit and loss account, statement of changes in equity, cash flow, note. So these are the things we'll be making and the various components of that. For example, I told you in the assets, we have to classify as current, non-current. Similarly, in liabilities also will be classifying as current, non-current. Also, in profit and loss, we'll be having additional part called a comprehensive income. When we add the comprehensive income to the profit for the year, we'll get total comprehensive income. Plus, we saw notes, which will give disclosures about various items in the financial statements, plus the various accounting policies we have followed. Further, the standard prescribes the minimum disclosures that are to be made in the financial statements and explains the general features of the financial statements. So this standard will tell you what are the minimum disclosures to be made in the financial statements. So these are things that have to be shown in the financial statements and what are the features of this. Plus, they are saying the presentation requirements prescribed in the standard are supplemented by the recognition, measurement, and disclosure requirements set out in other Ind AS for specific transactions and other events. So this this Ind AS only speaks about presentation of financial statements, but that has to be complemented or supplemented with other standards. So whatever is to be presented will be told to you by this standard. Plus, you have to understand what are the disclosure requirements in the other standards. So you have to read this standard with the other standards. So you cannot read this standard in isolation. So you have to read this standard along with the other standards and also understand what are the disclosure or presentation requirements given in the other standards. So accordingly, we have to follow all the standards. And end of the day, the management has to make a statement in the financial statements, in the notes, that we have complied with all the Ind AS. As we saw, there was a note that we have complied with Ind AS as per the section of the Companies Act. Okay, so this is the basic introduction. This is the standard which tells us what are the overall requirements for presentation of financial statements and what are the guidelines for making those statements, what are the components of the statements, like balance sheet, P&L and everything. What are the minimum disclosure requirements, and also that the presentation requirements will be given in this standard plus supplemented from other standards. That is what standard says. This introduction. Objective. This standard prescribes the basis for presentation of general purpose financial statements to ensure comparability. This standard objective. This standard prescribes the basis for presentation of general purpose financial statement. General purpose is basically the financial statements which are used by all the users of financial statements. It can be investors, it can be government, it can be the owners, it can be the employees, it can be anyone, customers also. So this standard prescribes the basis for presentation of general purpose financial statements to ensure comparability. Now comparability, that is comparing with what? With our financial statements of the previous periods. Like we saw that how we had compared financial statements of 1819 with 1718, plus comparing our statements with other entities, maybe our competitors, our peers. So the standard prescribes the basis for presentation. So that is how the statements are to be presented. This is the this is the format in which you need to present your financial statements so that they become comparable with your previous statements. So you have to follow the same format year on year. Plus, it can be easily compared with your peers. That is the financial statements of your peers. It sets out overall requirements for presentation of financial statements, guidelines for the structure, what is the structure and what is the minimum content in that. Scope. The standard applies to all types of entities. All types of entities the standard applies, so that there is no entity that is left out. Okay. Including those that present consolidated financial statements. So it applies even to holding companies who are presenting consolidated financial statements. In this, we'll be using Ind AS 110 for consolidated financial statements. We're studying that. Plus separate financial statements in accordance with the Ind AS 27, separate financial statement. Separate financial statement is the holding company presents its separate financial statements plus a consolidated financial statement. So for both, they are applicable. This standard does not apply to structure and content of condensed interim financial statements prepared in accordance with Ind AS 34. Now, this is the next standard which we are studying after this, Ind AS 34, which talks about how to prepare the interim financial statement, that is quarterly or 6 monthly. So this standard doesn't apply to that because we have a separate standard. Generally, when there is a separate standard, so we'll be referring to that. So this standard doesn't talk about interim statement because we have a separate standard for that. This standard uses terminology that is suitable for profit-oriented entities. So whatever terminology, that is how the balance sheet, how the profit and loss account has to be prepared, is given in the standard. What are the terms to be used, including public sector entities, that is PSUs also. So this standard is suitable for profit-oriented entities, including PSUs. PSUs also are working for profit. Obviously, they are working for welfare, but they are also profitable. So if you see all the oil companies and if you see all the power companies of the government, steel companies under the government, they are making good profits. Some are in losses, but many are in profits. But now, if an NGO wants to prepare its financial statements or a not-for-profit organization, okay, maybe like a club, so they will have to amend a few items. That is names of few items because they will be having donations, subscriptions. So they will have to add that instead of the words like profit. If entities with not-for-profit activities in private sector or public sector, so as you know, key NGOs can be a Section 8 company, can be a private company or a public company. They may need to amend the descriptions used for particular line items, that is lines in the balance sheet or P&L, in the financial statements and for the financial statements themselves. So they may have to amend few items. As we know that for NGOs, we used to prepare the income expenditure account and also the receipt payment account. So few things will be amended. Then some entities like mutual funds, we have already discussed that in like law. So some entities like mutual funds or some cooperative entities might not have share capital. Mutual funds generally don't have share capital. So in that, instead of share capital, we might write members' interest or unit holder. Unit holder is the mutual fund investors' interest in the company. So similar entities that do not have equity as defined in AS 32 financial instruments presentation. Example, some mutual fund, and entities whose share capital is not equity. Example, some cooperative entities may need to adapt the financial statement presentation of members or unit holders interest. So instead of equity, they will say members interests or unit holders interests. Mutual fund generally has unit holders. Okay, so this is just the basic. We saw the introduction, we saw the objective, and we saw the scope. Okay, all this skip. Purpose of financial statements. The objective of general purpose financial statements is to provide information about the financial position, that is the balance sheet, financial performance, profit and loss, cash flows of the entity, cash flow statement, that is useful to a wide range of users in making economic decisions. Now, the financial statements are used by a wide range of users, lenders, owners, like shareholders, investors, customers, government. So, a wide range of users will be using those statements for making various decisions. So, they should understand the exact financial position, the exact performance, what is the profitability, and the cash flows. So, for that, they have to see whether the cash flow from operating activities are good. The company is making money from operations. To meet the objective, the financial statements provide information about an entity's assets. So whenever you see the financial statements, as we saw, you will understand about the entity's assets, about its liabilities, about its equity, about its income and expenses, including any gains and losses, profit and loss, contributions and contributions by and distributions to owners in their capacity as owners. So any new infusion into the equity, cash flows, any changes in equity basically. Contributions by distribution owners is basically changes in equity. Cash flows, cash flow statement. Information along with other information in the notes assist the users of financial statements in predicting the entity's future cash flows and in particularly their timing and certainty. So if you study a company's financial statements thoroughly, so you will generally analyze that this company has a good future. So you can see the trend. If you compare the financial statements with the previous year, you can see the trend that the revenue has increased, that the business profitability has increased, the EPS has increased. So you can generally predict the future. Plus the timing and certainty, as in that if you study the quarterly statements, also you can understand that generally the company's first 2 quarters are good. You can understand that the first 2 quarters generally make more money for the company. Also, if you study the cash flow, so you can understand this much cash flow that company is generating anyways. So you know certainty that this company generates good amount of cash for operations. Now, what are the complete set of financial statements? A complete set of financial statements comprises of a balance sheet as at the end of the period, a statement of profit and loss for the period, statement of changes in equity for the period, statement of cash flows for the period, and notes comprising of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. Also, comparative information in respect of preceding period. Also, we saw that. So we don't have to make a separate balance sheet. We can just add a column of the previous year figures along with these year figures. Plus, sometimes you have to present a balance sheet at the beginning of the preceding period. So for example, we saw in this case the balance sheet. The current year is 17. Current year is 1890. Current year is 1890, and this is the income statement. The current year is 1890. Previous year is 1718. Okay. So sometimes they have to also add another column as at 1st April 17. That is balance sheet at the start of the preceding period. If they are making some retrospective changes in the accounting policy, if they are making some retrospective changes in the classification of items or the retrospective application of some accounting policy they are changing from the last 2 years. So they have to present what was the position at the start of the previous year. That is what they are saying. So in this case, it will be on 1st April 2017. A balance sheet as at the beginning of the preceding period क्या start la. When an entity applies an accounting policy retrospectively or makes a retrospective restatement of items, so if they restated the profits and all, we had seen in law, in CA Inter, sometimes they have to restate the whole financial statements. Makes a retrospective restatement of items in its financial statements, or when it reclassifies items in its financial statements, they change the classification of the items, maybe from current to non-current, non-current to current, or something like that. Now the comprehensive income wala part, this part, this part. An entity shall present a single statement of profit and loss with profit and loss and other comprehensive income presented in two sections. So similarly, they have presented here profit for the year. This is one section, and then other comprehensive income for the year, which has to be added. The sections shall be presented together with profit or loss section presented first, followed directly by the other comprehensive income section. So other comprehensive income can be something about revaluation of some assets or revaluation about assets, change in the valuation of investment, some actuarial gains or losses, foreign exchange gains or losses, something like that. Now, there are few entities which add a lot of things along with the financial statements, but these are not part of financial statements. You cannot say they are financial statements, even if they are presented with the financial statements. For example, many entities present reports and statements such as financial reviews by management, environmental reports, value added statements. There is something called as economic value added, market value added, all that are outside the financial statements. These are not covered. So you can present, but those are not part of the statements. Statements are only these many: balance sheet, P&L, and all that. Such reports and statements that are outside the financial statements are outside the scope of Ind AS, so they are not covered by Ind AS. As simple as that. So Ind AS will only cover these things and their presentation. Now, you can write down the complete set of financial statements wala part. That is little important because we'll be using that a lot. So write down the name of the standard first. This objective scope you don't need to write. Just write Ind AS 1 on a fresh page. Ind AS 1 presentation of financial statements. That is the name of the standard. Then I'll come to the point you need to write. Ind AS 1, presentation of financial statements. Next is general features of financial statements. So this chart is very important because we'll be studying each and everything under this chart. So firstly, fair presentation and compliance with Ind AS. So general features, the first is there should be fair presentation. So whatever is presented has to be true and fair. Going concern assumption. It has to be presented on the going concern assumption, as if the company will continue for a foreseeable future. If not, then disclose that we are not a going concern. We are going to liquidate it soon. Accrual basis, will be following the accrual basis of accounting. As the transaction happens, we'll record it, not on cash basis. Materiality and aggregation. All the material items have to be shown separately. And firstly, they have to be recorded properly. Offsetting, netting. Some transactions will net. Instead of recording on the debit side and credit side and all that, we'll be directly netting it off. So some assets, some expenses might be netted off. Consistency. All the treatments and the policies we are following have to be consistently applied from one financial period to another. Frequency of reporting. Reporting is basically presenting the financial statements annually. Every year you have to. Comparative information. Present the comparative information also for at least 1 year. You can present for 2 years also, but generally 1 year the standard suggests. So these are the points which we'll be studying now. So you can just write this chart first, then we'll go ahead. Because we'll be discussing about each and every point, plus that each and every point has a practical question. So this is the crux of this chapter. That is one part of this chapter is this. Please write down. Let's move ahead. Now, first, we'll go point by point. First is fair presentation and compliance, then going concern and clockwise will go. First is presentation of true and fair view and compliance with Ind AS. So that is obviously understood that whatever financial statements you are preparing have to be true and fair. They should give a true and fair view of the financial position, of the financial performance, of the cash flows. And that is what the auditor will also see, that whether the statements are giving a true and fair view, on the basis of which he will issue audit report. So obviously they have to be, at the same time, they have to be in compliance with the Ind AS. So financial statements shall present a true and fair view of the financial position, the financial performance, and the cash flows of an entity. So just below the chart, write down point 1, presentation of true and fair view and compliance with Ind AS, and below that just write this point, one line. Now in this there is a sub point called an explicit and unreserved statement. So basically in the notes, the management is expected to make a statement saying that we have complied with all the requirements of the Ind AS. If they have not complied it, then don't add this statement. So an entity whose financial statements comply with the Ind AS shall make an explicit statement and unreserved statement of such compliance in the notes. So they should give a clear statement. Explicit and unreserved means they should give a clear statement that we have complied with the Ind AS, all the Ind AS. Okay. So that is what has to be mentioned in the notes. If you have complied, mention that. Now there is one practical example about this. That is our illustration 1. Now, as I told you, all the illustrations are important. An entity prepares its financial statements that contain an explicit and unreserved statement of compliance with Ind AS. So entity has prepared financial statements, and in its notes they have made a statement that we have complied with all the Ind AS. However, the auditor's report on those financial statements contains a qualification because of disagreement on application of one accounting standard. So auditor disagrees. He says that one of the Ind AS you have not complied with. The auditor differs in his opinion. He makes a qualification. In such case, is it acceptable for the entity to make an explicit and unreserved statement of compliance with Ind AS? So what is the question is that the management had prepared the financial statements in which in the notes they had given that we have complied with Ind AS. Now auditor on auditing says that you have not complied with one Ind AS. Now the question is it acceptable on the part of management that they have given this statement? Is it acceptable? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because the whole responsibility of the financial statements is with the management. And if they think that they have complied with all the Ind AS requirements, then they can make the statement. An auditor can differ, that he has the right to differ. So he can write that in his auditor's report, but management can claim that they have complied with all the Ind AS. So that is the answer, that yes, it is possible for entity to make an unreserved and explicit statement of compliance with Ind AS, even though the auditor's report contains a qualification because of disagreement on application of accounting standards, as the preparation of financial statements is the responsibility of the entity's management and not the auditors. In case the management has a bona fide, genuine reason to believe that it has complied with all Ind AS, it can make an explicit and unreserved statement of compliance with Ind AS. So management can make a statement that they have complied. If they think that they have done it genuinely, then and they have a genuine reason, then they can say that. Auditor can always write whatever he wants in his report. Okay. So just write this part in your notebook. This part. Going concern. Going concern is something that we already know. हे आपल्याला माहितीच आहे. बेसिक कन्सेप्ट आहे. 11वीतही आपण शिकलोय हे की व्हॉट इज गोइंग कन्सर्न. So normally any financial statements which are prepared, the users will assume that they are prepared on going concern basis. Going concern is basically that the company will continue for a foreseeable future. It will continue. Basically, it won't shut down tomorrow, or it won't shut down in the next 12 months or in the next coming years. But if the management is planning to liquidate the entity within 12 months of the end of the reporting period, or any time after the reporting period, maybe 2 years from the reporting period, that is end of this year, then obviously disclose that. To disclose that you are not a going concern, as the company's future is weak. But if you are, then people will assume that you are a going concern. And secondly, if there are some factors present, for example, some factors like the business is down, or there are some changes in your environment and government rules have changed, which might affect your going concern assumption and which might affect or the business prospects and all. So management has to disclose what is their take on that, how they are going to tackle that, and is the company still going to be a going concern or not. If not, then they have to disclose yes, we are not going to be a going concern. And if they are, also disclose that yes, these are the factors surrounding us, this is the environment, but still we will be a going concern. Okay, so let's see what they are saying. Financial statements prepared under Ind AS should be prepared on a going concern basis unless management either intends to liquidate the entity or to cease trading or has no realistic alternative but to do so. So all the financial statements prepared under Ind AS will always be prepared on going concern basis unless the management wants to shut operations or stop operations, or they are gonna cease the business, or they don't have any option only to continue. Maybe government has changed the rules. Management is required to assess at the time of preparing the financial statements, because end of the day, responsibility of the financial statements is of the management. So management is required to assess at the time of preparing the statements the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. So at the time of preparing the statements for the year, they will assess whether the entity will be continuing as a going concern in the near future. This year, though, we have survived. What about the next year? And this assessment should cover the entity's prospects for at least 12 months. Minimum 12 months ahead, you have to think. It can be 2 years ahead also. So it is like 1 year you will survive, but next year after that you won't be surviving. Then also you are not a going concern. Then disclose that. So if you are like कि नहीं 12 months तो हम लोग चला लेंगे, उसके बाद पता नहीं, उसके बाद शायद बंद होगा, then disclose that. So they are saying at least 12 months. The 12-month period for considering the entity's future is a minimum requirement. An entity cannot, for example, prepare its statements on a going concern basis if it intends to cease operations 18 months from the end of the reporting period. So 12 months is just a minimum time frame they have given. So they have said that the standard says that if you are preparing financial statements for a year, look ahead, minimum 12 months ahead, and tell us whether you are going to be a going concern or you are going to shut operations. So even after 18 months from the reporting period, so today is, for example, 31st March 20. So maybe 2 years down the line, you are going to shut operations. Disclose that. You are not a going concern. So you are going to close operations after 2 years. If management has significant doubt of the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, the uncertainty should be disclosed. So if management thinks that there is doubt about entity being a going concern or continue as a going concern, they should disclose that. So even if currently they are going concern, but they have a doubt that tomorrow we might not be, they disclose it. Plus, if they are not preparing the statements on going concern basis with the intent of shutting down only, next year they are going to shut down. So they are not preparing on going concern basis. So there is no going concern assumption here. Disclose that. And also reason why the entity is not regarded as a going concern. Now there is an example here. Entity XYZ is a large manufacturer of plastic products for a local market. So they are a large manufacturer of plastic products and they supply in the local market. On 1st April 2006, the newly elected government unexpectedly abolished all import tariffs. Import tariffs is basically import duty on the goods which are imported. If you remove the tariffs, then these goods will be maybe cheaper than the local goods. So government generally puts import duty so that the domestic producers won't get affected. So they generally charge import duty to make the imported products expensive than the local products. So that is why local products will have an advantage. If the import duties are abolished, then local producers will go out of business, because now they have to compete with imported products which are cheap or at the same price. So on 1st April 2006, the newly elected government, so new government that came, unexpectedly abolished all the import tariffs, including the 40% tariff on all imported plastic products. So this is a large manufacturer of plastic products in local market. So they are a domestic producer. Earlier, what happened that whatever imported plastic products were coming to India, they had a import duty of 40%. So they were expensive. But now that has been abolished. So now there is a huge competition for XYZ now. So many other economic reforms implemented by the new government contributed to the value of country's currency appreciating significantly against most other currencies. So at the same time, our currency also fluctuated. Appreciating is basically rupee value has gained. So now currently the rupee value is something around 75 rupees, you get $1. So when the rupee appreciates, it is like in 60 rupees you get $1. So rupee has appreciated. So earlier you used to pay 75 rupees for $1. Now you are paying 60 rupees for $1. So rupee has appreciated. If we say rupee has depreciated, that means you need to pay more to buy a dollar. So that's like you have to pay 80 rupees to buy a dollar. So government reforms led to that also. The currency appreciation severely reduced the competitiveness of the entity's products. That has also affected the entity's products. So maybe because the rupee became stronger, a lot of imports started happening. So people started importing. Before 2006, entity XYZ was profitable. So before the government changed this, so on April 2006, the government changed the rules. So before that, entity was profitable. However, because it was unable to compete with low priced imports, entity XYZ went into losses. So as it was unable to compete with low priced imports because the duty was abolished, now they went into losses. And as at 31st March 2007, that is at the year end, after the government changed the policy, entity XYZ's equity, that is net worth or net assets, was around 1,000 rupees. They have just taken that figure, 1,000. And during, we are talking about the year 6-7, 2006, 2007. During the second quarter of that financial year, 6-7, the management restructured the entity's operation. They tried to restructure the operation so that to bring again profitability. That restructuring helped reduce losses for the third and fourth quarters to 400 and 380 respectively. So the losses that were incurred in that year were reduced to 400 and 380 in those in the third and fourth quarter. So in the first and second quarter of 6-7, they incurred huge losses. So they said that during the year, the entity reported a loss of 4,000. So in the first two quarters, they must have reported a maximum loss. And in the last two quarters, they reported a loss of 400 and 380. Now, generally, when these things happen, what happens is that the local manufacturers form a union or there some you can say some association, that is some chambers of commerce, something like that. They represent the issues of the local manufacturers to the government, and government then again brings back the tax. So they tell them, ki, see, because of your abolition of that import duty, now we are suffering. Everyone is going out of business. Now please bring back the taxes. So similar thing happened that in January 7, the local plastic industry. So for the year ended 31st March 2007, in that year only, so in 6-7 only, in January, so that is like after 9 months of that tax was abolished, the local plastic industry and labor union, the plastic industry, where all the industry, the manufacturers and the labor union also, because as the business will shut down, the people will go out of jobs. Labor union lobbied government to reinstate tariffs on plastic. So they said, please reinstate the tariffs. Otherwise, we'll go out of business and there will be job losses. On 15 March 7, the government announced, that's before the end of the financial year, the government announced that it would reintroduce limited plastic import tariffs at 10% in 2008. So they said we will not be imposing like 40% jo earlier tha, but we'll be imposing around 10%. However, it emphasized that those tariffs would not be as protective as the tariffs enacted by the previous government. That is obvious because earlier was 40%, now you are just putting 10%. So they said we will be not having that protective tariffs as the previous government had. In its latest economic forecast, the government predicts a stable currency exchange rate. See, when the currency rate is not stable, it affects our business. Okay, so that is XYZ's business. Okay, because the rupee becomes stronger, the imports become higher. If the rupee weakens, then the imports might reduce. So they said in its latest economic forecast, the government predicts a stable currency exchange rate in short term with a gradual weakening of the currency in the long term. So they say in the long run, the rupee will weaken, which will again be uh, in the interest of XYZ, because as the rupee was strengthening, as the rupee becomes stronger, people start importing because you can buy more things from that rupee. But in the long run, the government is predicting that the rupee will weaken, which will be beneficial for the local manufacturers because the imports will reduce. Now, this is the situation. So basically, when they are ending the financial statements of 31st March 2007, this is the situation that at the beginning of the year, the government changed the rules. Because of that, they started making losses. They made a loss of 4,000 rupees. But towards the end of the year, like since January, there were a situation that is the labor unions, the industry members lobbied with the government, and the government is ready to reinstate 10% tariff. So that's a positive. At the same time, the forecast is that the currency will also be stabilizing and the rupee will be weakening in the future, which also is a positive. So obviously, the management, these are the situations, they are incurred losses. So obviously, the management will have to make a forecast at the end of the year that are we a going concern. So they will understand the situation. Yes, we made losses this year, but again, the government will be imposing 10% tariff and the rupee will be weakening. So we might return back to profitability. So they have to judge. That is their call. So if they say that we will be returning back to profitability and we will be continuing as a going concern, then the statements will be prepared as going concern. If not, they have to disclose that we are not a going concern. But in this case, there is a doubt surrounding the going concern assumption. So they have to clarify also that we are making losses this year, but still we continue to be a going concern as the government will be changing the rules. So we will be surviving, something like that. Hopefully, they have made that statement. Or if they predict that 10% hike of tariff won't be helping them, they will be out of business by end of 12 months, then they will say that we are not going concern. So whatever management says is the fact because they have a better idea. Management of the entity XYZ undertook a going concern assessment for 31st March 2007. Management projects forecast that imposition of a 10% tariff on import of plastic product would at the current exchange rate result in the entity returning to profitability. So they say that 10% tariff at the current rate also will help the company getting back to profitability. So definitely they are a going concern. So if they are coming back to profitability at the current year, current exchange rate only, then it's good only. And tomorrow when the exchange rate weakens, they will make more profits. How should the management of the entity XYZ disclose the information about the going concern assessment in the entity XYZ's 31st March 2007 annual financial statement? That is your question. How should they disclose? Now, first you have to write about what is going concern and all that, and then we'll show the extract, how we have to disclose. So that is the answer. So first we'll write what is going concern. So going concern is a feature to be considered while presenting the financial statements. That is, normally we prepare statements as per Ind AS or any accounting standard as per the going concern assumption. As per Ind AS 1, when preparing the statements, management shall make an assessment of an entity's ability to continue as a going concern. An entity shall prepare financial statements on a going concern basis unless management either intends to liquidate the entity or to cease trading or has no realistic alternative but to do so, no option but to do so. When management is aware in making its assessment of material uncertainties like these ones related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt upon the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, the entity shall disclose those uncertainties. So if there are some uncertainties surrounding the company like these ones, then the management has to disclose what is their take on those. Is the company going to survive that or not? An entity is required to disclose the facts if the financial statements are not prepared on going concern basis. So taking the situation into consideration, they have to say whether we are preparing the statement as per going concern or not. along with the reason why they are not. If they are not on going concern, then why they are not? What is the reason you are not a going concern anymore? While assessing the going concern assumption, an entity is required to take into consideration all the factors covering at least but not limited to 12 months from the end of the reporting period. So as on 31st March 2007, they should consider the next 12 months minimum and a year ahead of that. On the basis of Ind AS 1 and the facts and circumstance of the case, the following disclosure is appropriate. So in this case, this is the disclosure that the entity will make. Extracts from the notes. So this is the part of the notes. Extracts from the notes to the entity XYZ's 31st March 2007 financial statements. Note 1, basis of preparation of the financial statements. On the basis of management's assessment at 31st March 7, the financial statements have been prepared on the going concern basis. They are preparing on the going concern basis. However, management's assessment assumes that the government will reintroduce the limited plastic import tariffs and that the currency exchange will remain constant. On 15th March 7, the government announced that limited import tariffs will be imposed in 2008. However, the government emphasized that the tariff would not be as protective as 40% tariff in effect before 7, provided that the INR does not strengthen. Management projects forecast that a 10% tariff on all plastic products will result in entity XYZ returning to profitability. As at 31st March 2007, entity XYZ had net assets equity of 1000 rupees. If the import tariffs are not imposed and currency exchange rate remains unchanged, entity XYZ's liability could exceed its assets by the end of the financial year 7-8. They are saying if the import tariffs are not imposed, then we will be in problem. Our liabilities will exceed the assets. On the basis of their assessment of these factors, management believes that the entity XYZ is a going concern. So as of now, though, we are going concern and we are expecting a positive news about the tariff rates. If that doesn't happen, also you have to state that we might go in losses, but that might not still make us not a going concern. So we might be going concern, but we might be in further losses. So that is why we'll believe that the entity still is a going concern. So that is how you need to disclose. So firstly, they have said that is the management assessment. As per the assessment, we have prepared on going concern basis. Management assessment assumes that government will reintroduce, and government has announced that they will be introducing, not as high, but this thing. So going with that, we will be returning to profitability. And as at 31st March, we have a net asset of 1000. But if they are not imposed, then we might be in a different position. Management is assuming that they will be imposed. But if not, then this is the position we are giving you. We are showing you the picture. And as of now, the management, based on these factors, says that the entities are going concern. This is what they need to disclose. Understood this one? Illustration 2. So this straight away question can be asked in the exam. असं exam मध्ये उसून विचारणार ते. असं नाव बदल दिल मॅगझिन. So in this going concern, I'll read again. So this is part of our answer also. The important points are the financial statements prepared under Ind AS should be prepared on going concern basis unless management intends to liquidate the entity or to cease trading or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Management is required to assess at a time of preparing the financial statements the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. And this assessment should cover the entity's prospects for at least 12 months from the end of the reporting period. Reporting period is the period for which you are making the statement. That is, in this case, in the example, it was 31st March 2007. The 12-month period is a minimum. You have to see further also. So, for example, if the entity is going to close operations after 18 months from the end of the reporting period, also you have to disclose that we are not a going concern. Then if the management has significant doubt about entity's ability to continue as a going concern, the uncertainty should be disclosed, like in this case. And in case the statements are not prepared on the going concern basis, the entity should disclose the basis of preparation of financial statements and also the reason why the entity is not regarded as a going concern. So the rule is that the statements will have to be prepared as per going concern, and the users will also assume that you are a going concern unless you disclose that we are not. Secondly, management has to assess at the reporting date that whether we are a going concern, and for that they have to consider the future. Then if the management has significant doubts about entities future, then they should disclose that this might affect our uh, business prospects, and if we are not a going concern, disclose that also, and the reasons also with that. Okay, so in this going concern part, you have to write this first para, going concern first para, third para, fourth para. Okay, going concern first para, second para, sorry, third para, and fourth para. First, third, fourth, and then illustration 2, the solution along with the extract. So that is what they have asked. Okay, so this you can do at home. So when you write the next point, first we wrote about true and fair presentation. Now second is going concern. In going concern, write 3 paras. Apart from that, the solution of this illustration to page 2.21. Then accrual basis of accounting, basic point, that entity shall prepare its financial statements except for cash flow information. Obviously, cash flow has to be prepared on cash basis. An entity shall prepare its financial statement except for cash flow information using the accrual basis of accounting. So third point will be accrual basis, and in this only one point you have to add. Okay, only one point you have to add. Then materiality and aggregation. Now materiality is basically importance. Items which are material means items which are important from the user's point of view. So what items are critical depends upon what the users think are critical. What items they see before making decisions about investing or giving loans to the company or dealing with the company. These are all material items. So they have to be disclosed in the financial statements properly. But materiality depends from company to company. So an item which is material for one company might not be material for the other. Okay. At the same time, the amount of the item might be material to a small company if the amount is in lakhs, but for a big company whose turnover is in thousands of crores, that will be immaterial. So depends on the scale also. So an entity shall present separately each material class of similar items. So all the material items which are similar should be presented separately. An entity shall present separately items of dissimilar nature or function unless they are immaterial except when required by law. The rule is all the important items, for example, all the it's like all the expenses, you can say, of a certain nature which are material from the user's point of view. You have to disclose it separately of a class, and if the items are not similar, so they are not uh, of the same nature, then show it separately. Don't add it to the class of different items. So what they are saying is that when you are recording items in the financial statements like expenses or incomes, So you need to understand how the grouping has to be done. So similar items are grouped under one head. Dissimilar items are to be grouped under different heads. Don't mix it. So I'll read again. An entity shall present separately each material class of similar items. Similar items should be grouped together, and dissimilar items should not be grouped together. That is what they are saying. They should be shown separately. So for example, under general expenses, miscellaneous expenses, you cannot add salary. Salary is always material, show separately. Salary and wages show separately. General expenses show separately. You cannot put general expenses में salary, because that will give a wrong picture. Now, they have given some examples about materiality. They have said if an entity has maybe two types of plant and machinery. So one is actual machinery required for this thing, that is their machinery one, and second is they have some equipment, that is their second machinery. So first is normal machinery, second is the equipment, that is also coming under plant machinery. Plus under plant machinery, a motor car is also covered. So suppose there are three items of plant machinery. Now they buy a additional machinery. Now logically they have to put that in that first machinery. I said there are three categories of machinery. First is a normal machinery, second is equipment, third is motor car. Okay. Now they buy another machinery. So obviously they have to add it to the earlier machinery, that is the first category I told, which had machinery, because second had equipment, third had motor car. Now if they fail to do so, instead of adding in the first category, they add in motor car. They say that it might not be material. It might not be material. But if instead of disclosing it as a non-current asset, you show it in current assets, that can be material. That can change the whole logic. Okay. So some mismatch in the category might not affect the users. That is fine. But if you change the nature, that is from current to non-current or non-current to current, that definitely is a material item. So that will definitely affect the decisions of the users. So that is one thing that will be material. Just changing the category might not be that material. Then losses from bad debts. Okay. Bad debt losses. For a big entity, it might not be material, but for a small business, it can be material, depend on the size. Same way for there is an error in the valuation of inventory. Maybe error in the valuation of closing stock. So they have overvalued the closing stock by 2 lakhs. For a small entity, that can be the difference of profit and loss. So if you revalue the closing stock, that company might go in losses also. Because as you know, key closing stock we credit in the trading account, and then that adds up to the gross profit. So for a small entity, error in valuation of inventory can lead to profit and loss. That can be again a material item. But for a big entity, a small error in inventory valuation in lakhs maybe won't be having any effect. So that won't be material. So again, depends on the size. So these are few examples of materiality they have given. Plus, they have said in the first point that don't group items of dissimilar nature. Group items of similar nature. And all the material items have to be shown separately. So in materiality aggregation, just the first line, and then you can write the example. Example 1, 2, 3. First line, example 1, 2, 3. Just for our understanding. So you can see here under expenses in profit and loss. So there is employee benefit expense, which includes salaries. Then there is finance cost. Then there is depreciation, amortization. Okay. So all these material items are shown separately. Now, in this, employee benefit expenses and finance costs cannot be grouped together because these are two separate material items. So they cannot be grouped together. So they have to be shown separately. At the same time, employee benefit expenses cannot be added to other expenses. Other expenses cannot be added to employee benefit expenses. Same way, depreciation and amortization expense has to be shown separately because these are all material items. Plus, revenue from operations and other income has to be shown separately. It cannot be clubbed. Okay, so that is what materiality means. So you have to show it separately in the item of profit and loss, especially. Plus, they have given note also. We'll just see the note 2829. We'll just see. So how they have grouped various items. See here. Under finance cost, they have taken interest expenses and other borrowing costs. Under employee benefit expenses, they have taken salaries, contribution to PF, employee stock option expense, staff welfare. So only similar items are grouped together. So in this, they cannot take power and fuel, repair and maintenance. That is what the point is. Okay. So only similar items have to be grouped. Okay. Now all these items are grouped together because these are part of other expenses. Understood? Exceptional item is loss on sale of investment. That is the exceptional item they have shown. This is what the point in materiality says. Understood? Only when you see the practical application, you will understand. Some points you cannot understand from theory. That is why I am showing you this balance sheet and other actual practical things. Okay. So just write the first point in materiality and aggregation. Aggregation is just what we saw, employee benefit expenses, and materiality is all the important items have to be shown, and the important items were what was shown in the P&L account, employee benefit expense, finance expense, all that. So under that, various items can be grouped of similar nature. And these three examples. Okay, so tomorrow we'll start with offsetting and other points. Okay, so please complete your book, keep your book up to date. So because we'll be adding a lot of things there. Okay, and when you write, automatically your revision will happen. Okay, so it is like once you are doing here, and then second time you are doing at home. So already you are reading it twice. Okay, and that is what we need. You to revise again and again. Okay, so let's continue tomorrow. Any doubts today? Today's lecture?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, so let's continue tomorrow. Okay, bye bye.